All right, back again. Ozonics Killerwinds podcast. I'm Nick Simon, joined by Scott Elrod, Buddy Piland. A little bit different setting today.
Yeah.
We're down in Texas right now. We're finishing up a nilgai hunt.
Well, y'all are finishing up. We're going to hunt one more day.
Yep, you got one more day. You had some success tonight.
We did. It worked out all right despite a less than optimum shot, but it did the job. So we're really happy.
Heck yeah, it was nice to finally get one on the board. We shot some pigs and stuff, but finally got on the board with a nilgai, so that's awesome. But we started out the week up at your guys' lease, trying to kill some axis deer with bows. We kind of struggled a little bit.
Well, I don't know if we struggled very much.
Well, we didn't tag out, is what I should say.
Well, we didn't. There's really not any tags for that. I'd say the main problem was Buddy said that this was going to be a give me because he had them just perfectly. He said, man, we have two beautiful animals. Three. And it's like clockwork, Scotty. You go on up there and sit in that 104-degree temperature at 4 a.m. in the morning for 3. They didn't show up. And we tried everything under the sun.
No, they showed up. You filmed them. He just didn't show up where we could put an arrow in him. The tank showed up at our blind at number 1 at a dead run, stopped, checked for does. I mean, what happened, I can't control when the does come into estrus. And apparently we had 1 or 2 pop hot, and the pattern was instantly ruined.
That did Jake like things pretty bad. I mean, we saw them from the one day when we went over and sat on that one on the far side, and we saw what was that? Crawdaddy. What a beast!
Yeah,
I mean, what a big wide axis.
Yeah.
And when I saw him with his nose stuck to her hind end, I thought, oh no, this is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's like kind of where I wanted to go with this is so you guys came into it with the expectation of, being able to see all these deer that you guys have on camera that you've been getting consistently, and then, that just happens in hunting. Something changes, weather changes, something comes into heat. So yeah, like you said, it kind of jake-legged everything and kind of slowed everything up, but as a whole, we still ended up seeing some deer, which was fun. We saw a ton of whitetails.
Oh, yeah. No,
this was awesome.
Oddly enough, it's the best year for whitetails that we've had, at least the 6 years I've been coming back and forth, and we've been trying to hang out there and run cameras the last couple. We had a really wet spring, but and this summer's brutal, unbelievably dry. The temperatures in late May, early June were more like August, and they've stayed that way all the way through June, July, and even in August. We were 105 degrees here in South Texas, but Central Texas has been experiencing the same kind of heat, 105, 106 degrees. Everything's burned up, and that's why I had them patterned, right? They were coming to corn pretty much daily because there's not a whole lot of other stuff to eat. But
and water. Water is huge, right?
Yep.
And so, we try to stay somewhat away from the water so they don't feel pressured there so they can get to it. But, you talk about challenges, but I think that's a given.
Yeah.
I've never really been in hunting scenarios where it's just absolutely a slam dunk. If you do, it's really more of the fluke than the normal.
Right.
And so it's just being able to kind of accept, adapt, and just try to keep moving.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, and so we hunted down there me and you, we got down there, we hunted Friday through Tuesday, and then you came on Sunday, correct?
Yeah, we came Sunday and got in time for an evening hunt.
Yep, so we had a couple days there, and, like we were saying, it was, we saw them, it was just a little bit slow, never were able to close the deal, but it was still a lot of fun. Saw a lot of whitetails, got a lot of good footage, so that was really cool. But then we traveled down south more, down to the King Ranch. Yeah,
about 4 hours further south. And, we're about, maybe 80 miles from the border of Mexico, and right on as the crow flies 7-8 miles to the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And we're down here bow hunting nilgai, which was, man, they're pretty cool animals. When I was like told that I was going to be coming down here, I'm like, I don't even know what a nilgai is. So it's been pretty cool to experience it, and obviously we're at the King Ranch, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, just top to bottom, everything's just awesome down here. It's really cool.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, you want to talk about an animal that's very hard to pattern. You know, axis are not like a whitetail, right? And so they're kind of schizophrenic. I mean, to some degree, you know, you're going to get them down here in Texas coming to feeders and this and that, but those suckers will just graze too.
Yeah.
I mean, where whitetail won't go feed on certain things, and axis will.
Yeah.
And they just kind of set their own meal agenda and do what they wish to a great degree. You throw a nilgai on the plate.
Yeah.
Oh man, the one thing that you can, you know, basically predict about them is they're utterly unpredictable.
Yeah.
You know, you'll see them on one part of a ranch, and the next time you know, they'll be a few miles away. They just wander.
Right, and hunting nilgai, anybody who's hunted South Texas, right, you can see the brush, right? So a couple of things that we have to do. We're here in August not because we like to hunt in 105-degree weather. We're here in August because if you have a dry, hot summer, those animals have to come to water. So for a bow hunter in this type of country, the only way you're going to have an opportunity is either to ambush them on the en route or an exit from a water source, or you hunt the water. And that's why we're here in August suffering like this for the opportunity. And to your point, it's unpredictable. We all love whitetail, or I love whitetail, and most of us do, right? That's what we're passionate about. Axis deer are fun, but as you alluded to, so much spookier, right? They're, from an evolutionary standpoint, they're from India, so are nilgai, right? They had tigers running around and eating them. These animals are the most patient animals I've ever seen, and if they believe they're in a situation where they're exposed, they are hyper alert, and you can have whitetails standing around, milling around like it's the coolest thing in the world, and the nilgai will come unglued at the slightest little thing, or they just won't commit.
Yeah,
they'll stand there for 2 hours and watch a water hole covered in animals, and then at the last second decide something's not right and leave.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me is like, you know, as being a camera guy, like you're constantly looking at all these animals through the camera, and you kind of pick up on little things that you might not if you're, you know, focused on trying to kill the deer. But when you're filming it, obviously, you know, you kind of see it from a different perspective. And that was one thing that I noticed with these nilgai when we saw them is like, they're just so methodical with every single thing that they do. Like they'll just come and they'll just stand there, and you can tell that they're just trying to soak up every single thing before they make their move. It was super interesting to see. Very, very cool to see. But yeah.
When you go, the other thing too with them is that if you've ever been elk hunting before, elk will stage. You know, they'll come down, and they need water too, right? Because it gets hotter than heck for those suckers. But they'll come down and they'll stage. They'll hold for a great while, many times, just right before you lose light or even into the dark, before they'll come into water or out into the fields or whatever. Nilgai many times they're just the same. Right? They'll come and they'll stage. I mean, and the crazy thing is they don't jump fences.
Yeah.
They go under them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an antelope, you know, for the most part.
Yep.
And so, you know, they literally will stage out there and they just watch. They watch everything out there. It could be a zoo out there, pigs everywhere, deer everywhere. Oh, yeah. And they don't care.
Yeah.
They just sit there and they watch.
Yep.
And then when they're committed, they'll come in and you just pray you get the opportunity.
Right, exactly.
But ultimately, they eat really, really good.
Yeah.
And they're fun. They're fun. They're giant, tough animals. They call them the gray ghosts for a reason because they appear and disappear out of nowhere for an animal. A mature bull can go 600 pounds.
Yeah.
And a mature cow can push 450 pounds. So they're really large animals, largest species of antelope, and just eat really well, fun, hard to kill. So a great archery game animal.
Yeah, definitely.
Great archery, and they also expand your season, right?
Yes,
you're right, exactly.
If you want to be a hunter and you're primarily a whitetail hunter,
Yeah.
you get to do X and you may hunt a couple states. But if you want to go do something in July or August and go hunt a really cool animal and have a great experience, I mean, South Texas now has more nilgai than India does. And so, I mean, it's an amazing experience. I think more people should get in there and enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It was super fun. I really enjoyed it. And, as a whitetail guy, I mean, holy crap, the amount of whitetail that I've seen in the last couple of days is just unbelievable. Incredible. And speaking of incredible, you had a pretty crazy deal with the whitetail yesterday with the coyote chasing them and then going into the water.
Yeah, so about I don't remember exactly what time it was, maybe 8:30 in the morning, and I hear something to my left, and I see a nice rack 9-point. I mean, he's solid in the 150s, just gorgeous deer at a dead run, and he hits the crawl. Like Scott said, these around here when they hit these traps. But a trap is just what they use to catch cattle in. That's what it's a trap. So usually there's a water hole, a windmill, and it's a big area, several acres or larger, and it's fenced, and they go in and feed it so they can catch up cattle and then haul them out of here.
Yep.
But inside those traps, they have crawls where they've lifted the fence and animals go under.
Yeah.
And they usually take their time, but this buck hits that crawl wide open. And right behind him is 3 coyotes, and he runs straight to the water hole and hits the edge, and then goes straight in the water up to his neck. And I thought, well, man, he's just getting, because that's what animals do a lot of times when they're being hounded by even wolves or coyotes. They'll go to water and anticipating they can get them off of them, and a lot of times they die right there.
You're right.
But at first I thought he was okay, but the more we watched him, when he swam out a little ways, and I watched him go under once. And struggled to get back up, and he got back to where he could touch again, and was just sitting there that time, not swimming, and his head went under like he'd fallen asleep, and then he shook that off and come out, and then he stood there. We watched him for maybe 2 hours in the water, just and his ears laid down flat, and I was like, man, I'm afraid this buck's gonna die.
Yeah.
He'd go back down in the water. Well, we were having an encounter with a cow guy that I messed up and blew her out of there. But during that time when all of that tenseness of her right behind us and waiting, I quit watching him, and I heard something and turned around, and there was some splashing right down where he was, but I couldn't see him anymore. And then it just stopped, and I went back to concentrating on the cow, and blew that up. And when I turned back around, there was nothing. And I was just like, I told Jake, I said, man, I think he died.
Yeah. I
said, when Oscar gets here and we're done, we'll go down there. I drag him out of the water hole so he doesn't mess the water hole up. But we had good footage of him. But I don't know, 30, 40 minutes later, you heard something down there, and all of a sudden you see the rack, and he's right along this tall goatweed. And he's down there for a little bit, but he finally walks up and in that tall goatweed, and then he just lays down and disappears right by the pond. And he stayed there for another 30 or 40 minutes. Then he gets up and he walks real slow. And there's one part of that trap where the fence, instead of having a crawl, they've laid the fence down so it's 2 feet tall. They just jump over it.
Yeah.
Well, he went to jump over it and caught himself and flipped over and was laid over there. He laid there for another 30 or 40 minutes. And last time I seen him, it wasn't the last time I seen him. I seen him walk off and thought it would be the last time, but later that day, we seen him come back down out of there, and then I lost him. So hopefully he'll make it, but he was super stressed. And people were like, because down here, these coyotes were this big, but these coyotes, 3 or 4 of them running a deer like that, and they just run them and run them and run them and run them, and in this heat, they kill them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like Buddy was saying too, we got some pretty amazing footage of that, so we'll definitely throw it in here so we can, so you guys can see it and whatnot. So
yeah, it's amazing with the coyotes. There's literally some people out there who say, oh, they don't really create that much havoc, but we literally have some pictures. I saw them from Oscar, the guy who's been driving us around, of a Neil guy that had the back end eaten out of her while she was alive by coyotes down here. They're not big.
No, they're small.
These things are small. I mean, they're about the size of a medium-sized poodle.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not a big animal at all.
Right.
But they gang up on those critters and just run them. They just run them to death and then just knock them down. So I mean, if it can take down a Neil guy, it sure as heck can take down, plenty of deer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think one thing we should talk about too is Scott is a dead eye at 70 yards.
Yeah, well, don't go there. I can be a deadeye and then I can Jake light things up with the best of them. I guarantee you. But
Well, should we get into it just a little bit?
sure, I'm ready to eat humble pie.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well, first off, Scott, this morning he did shoot a pig at 70 yards and just drilled him. It was pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
Drilled her. Yeah, she only went about 10 feet or so.
Yep. And then tonight it was kind of a slow night. There wasn't much going on. I mean, there was some deer coming in, and all of a sudden, before you know it, I looked to my left and there's a cow Neil guy coming into the water, and I'll let you tell the rest.
Yeah, I mean, it was terrible. I mean, it's one of those things that, I've been sitting now in the heat with you we're going on 7 days.
Yeah.
Right. And so you just want so bad to, you practice to perform a craft.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's a hobby of mine that I just love. I mean, I don't compete, but I love to shoot.
Yeah.
I love to shoot. And I shoot year round all the time. It's my way of kind of just mentally getting a break.
Right.
And so, tonight we had the cow come in, had a calf with her. The calf was a big calf. I mean, it wasn't like a young calf. I mean, it was smaller than her, but it was big.
Yeah.
And they both came into the water at the same time, and the cow just walked right on in there.
Yep.
And then the calf was coming up right behind her and coming into the water. And so I don't like to shoot cows when they have small calves, but this
Right.
was no question. This thing was plenty big, the calf was. So I drew back, and I kind of put the pins, and I was sitting kind of in between her and the calf, and then I slid forward because I didn't want that calf to get up there next to her and take a
Right.
chance of her. Sometimes they'll run into the water and then shoot into her by accident. And I shot, and I made a bad shot. I mean, a hideously bad shot, and mortally wounded her.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she's deceased. I mean, but the problem is we didn't get to find her.
Yeah.
And it just really, it kind of punches you because
Right.
it affects. I mean, you took an animal's life, you didn't get the protein out of it.
Exactly.
You impacted the ecosystem really kind of in a negative way,
Yep.
and just because you didn't perform at that given time the way you needed to perform, you didn't
Right.
pull it together, and so I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that. And people say, "Oh, it's just part of bow hunting," and the thing is, I've been bow hunting for 40 some years,
Yeah.
and it's happened to me on a couple occasions before,
Yeah.
right? And most of the people who have hunted with me know, right? And so, I mean, I've been very blessed in the past, but I'm more than willing to pass. If I don't feel comfortable, like the night before, I had 4 bulls show up 30 yards away from me.
Yeah.
But I had some cows in there intermixed with them. And,
Yeah.
I have no problem with saying I don't feel comfortable doing
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And I should have, that given situation, problem is I dropped the pin on her, and my thing is in my head, I had zero doubt in my mind this was going to happen. This was going to be quick, smooth, ethical, and done.
Yeah.
And I performed poorly. And so, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And, you just got to suck it up and go. But it's one of those things you look back at and you're just, I wish I would have done better for you guys, but the animal too, for sure. Right? I really did her wrong.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like with what we do, I mean, obviously we have so much respect for these animals. So when something like that happens, like can't even really put it into words. Like it just flat out sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
Reality is bow hunting's hard.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
That's part
exactly.
of the allure for us
Yep.
is that it is hard. It requires a ton of practice and dedication to the craft, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But in a real world situation, things happen, and not to make light of it, like you said, it's a big deal. But bow hunting's hard, and sometimes things like that happen. We want to minimize them. We don't want them to happen. But I've known you a long time, and I know it's not from a lack of preparation.
Yeah.
It's not from a lack of want-to, and it's not from a lack of execution. Just you kill a pig at 70-yard heart shot.
Yeah.
You could, again, it was the situational context, and things they didn't happen the exact same right way.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, bow hunting, it's so crazy is that, every once in a while I like to jerk around and, I love to shoot distance, and I kind of showed you I like to shoot distance. I made, I was shooting 90 yards and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I do it because it's my hobby and I love it, right? I don't plan on going hunting and taking those kind of shots. But bow hunting is a weird animal, right? Because you can shoot dots until forever.
Yeah.
And you can be a piss poor hunter, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're hunting, the ability to mentally kind of suck in that rush, and people who say, I don't get that rush, and they've been a bow hunter for a long period of time, they're not telling you the truth.
Yeah.
All of us get it. And it's just some people over time, the more they've done it, are more apt to be able to control it. And what they do is systematically they have a checklist of what happens, right? And so they're much better to perform. Just as I showed tonight, even after 40 years of doing this, I failed, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things that I think to say there's mastery of a craft, I think you pursue the mastery of the craft.
Yeah.
But bow hunters are just different animals, right? Bow hunters, they're willing to take on the challenge. They're willing to, at times, take failure,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yep.
different to look at something through a scope and pop it. And I'm all for all forms of hunting. Don't get me wrong. I love all those hunters out
Yep.
there. But it's one of those things that when you archery, taking that seriously to the next level and have that checklist in your head when you're hunting. And the only way you get that is hunting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep,
That's why we're out here
100%.
in July doing this,
Yeah.
right? Because every time you do it, you go through that mental checklist. This is what I need to do to perform,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So moving on from that, you had some luck tonight. You want to take us through the hunt a little bit and just what went down?
Yeah, so we did something a little different than I've ever done here. So me and Scotty hunted here last year, and we pretty much hunt water holes, tanks or in these traps. And Oscar had a spot where it was an ambush site that's just off of a tank outside of the trap, and there's a crawl, and they have a 2-track, and they kind of stage up coming out of the pasture or the woods on the edge, and then they walk to the trap and go under. But we're 35 yards from the trap from the trap, the edge, and the crawl. And we're 15 yards from a trail here. We're 6 yards from a trail on our left-hand side. And these animals literally were right there and would come out in front of us. But the beautiful part is they were coming out to stage to watch the water. So at this point, 9 out of 10 of them they thought they were safe. They felt home. They're all over underneath us. I mean, I'm practice drawing on animals, and they're under us. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And in fact, I told them, I said, if I ever have the opportunity to come here again, I will hunt this spot every single night.
Yeah.
No
Really?
matter what. I will hunt here every evening because you get the west sun to your back tucked up in the trees, so the east sun will be brutal there. And but we even talked about it. Me and Jake talked about it and said we'll bake in the morning if there's good movement on the camera in the morning.
Yeah.
If Oscar says, I'm getting bulls coming in here, we'll suffer the sun to sit there. That's how cool it was. It was so different, but everything happened there so much faster because you can't see anything. The trees, the way it is, you can see down the road this way, and you can see over your left shoulder, but everything out there, you couldn't really see anything.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool, but you couldn't see anything behind you at all where they're coming from. And so you saw them when they were there. I mean, it was instant. And so we had about 50 yards down, we had a ton of deer pouring out of there, ton of whitetail. But I don't know, around 7 o'clock, look up, and now a guy steps out at about 50 yards. And again, I don't know if you've ever been bear hunting, but for me, it's Nilgai the same way right now. When they first step out of the woods, they look huge because you're looking at whitetail all the time, and all of a sudden, and I range it. It's at 50 yards, perfect. It wasn't 52, it wasn't 49, it was 50. And I was like, I shoot at 50 all the time. I'm like, all right, I'll just put my 50-yard pin on and tattoo this, this animal. Because I thought you couldn't see any horns, so I thought it was a mature cow. Look, so I'm sitting there and I'm about to draw, and Jake whispers, "Young bull." So I take my glass and start looking. I was like, oh yeah. I said, never mind, we're not going to shoot him. And he works his way on in it anyway. And I'm watching him down there. I have to lean way over in the stand and look under a tree, and I could just see his hind end, you know. And I'm looking down there, and all of a sudden, all of the deer, and there's a bunch of mature bucks down there with him, and they all step away from the fence, and all of a sudden I see deer start going that way, this way, and they start coming this way, and I'm like, what's going on? And the cows are like, what's going on in the trap? Something's, you know, I'm trying to see and can't, and something pushes them all down. So they all come right back down in front of us. And I had told Jake too, I said, we're not going to shoot him. It's just a young bull. We still got another hunt left. We got the rest of this hunt. And I said, unless, of course, he comes in and gives us, just begs us to shoot him. Well, he begged us. He comes in at 20 yards, at 10 yards, at 14 yards. And Oscar had told us you can stop him. So I thought, well, I'm going to, just for practice. When he's finally decided to leave, right at the tree line, quartering slightly away, and he just stopped and looked, you know, and just perfect. And so it was really a cool experience. And we had 2 unbelievable whitetail.
So he did stop.
Oh, yeah, stopped. Perfect. I stopped the cow. You'll see it on the cow I shot. We're getting to that. I stopped her, too, and shot. So that all happens. But first off, something really cool here. The pigs are everywhere here, and it's unbelievable. It is my favorite thing in the world is launching arrows at pigs. You know, no stress in Texas. Pigs are pigs. Kill them all. And but what pushed even the cows? These Santa Gertrudis cows normally run the pigs off.
Yeah.
But out comes the biggest boar I've ever seen here. He's well over 300 pounds. He's just a monster. And he pushed the cows out, the deer out, the nilgai. He pushed everybody out.
I didn't hear about this.
Oh, no, he's giant. But he went the opposite way, because otherwise he would have one of Buddy's arrows in him, because he went the wrong way, because he is massive. But anyway, so that's what did that. But all this stuff clears out. Everything's calmed back down, and we're kind of laughing and reliving the hunt. And we got some great shots because, like I said, I was able to draw on them. And in your mind, you know, oh, I got that one. And did that. And I said, well, hey, man, we still got an hour and a half of good. This is the witching hour, right? This is the best time in the world right now for a big nilgai bull to come out. And so we just get settled in. And like 3 minutes later, if even that, he's like, there's that bull back. And we look down there and he goes, wait a minute, that's a cow. And I look and I go, that is a cow. So now all of a sudden it's on, right?
Yeah.
Because we knew no matter cow, we're going to shoot a cow, period. So we can take a bull and a cow here.
All right.
And it doesn't matter to me how, I'm not going to shoot a calf, but if it's a cow, I'm going to shoot it.
Yeah.
And if it gives us the opportunity, well, she goes around a brush pile toward the trap, and then she cuts up and starts edging along the fence. And I had ranged the fence at like 36 yards, and then I had bushes and some trees, and I was ranging all these things. And looks to me like she's going to come in about 30 yards. And I had my deal set at 20. I went ahead and rotated my sight to 25, because I'm like, if she comes in a little bit, I'll adjust. If she's out at 30, I'll adjust. I'll just leave it at 25 so it's less.
Yeah.
But apparently while I'm watching her, she had angled in more, and I'm at 25. And when she gets right in front of me, perfectly broadside, I mew at her, just hit her, and she stops, and I settle in and let rip. Well, in watching the video, I think she dropped a little on me, but at the same time, I hit her high. And I knew I hit her high the second I saw it hit her. But the cool thing about nilgai vitals is their lungs are heavy down here, and they come up in a teardrop lobe, and they finish high, but it's only about 3 inches wide at the top, just below, almost right below their spine.
Yeah.
And I thought, because when she took out of there was a lot of blood. Not, like you hit muscle blood and there's blood running out, but when she pounded, you could see it blow out of the sides when we rewatched the video. Because the first thing I did was like, Jake, play that back, because the shot's high. Yeah. But I could see when she'd hit, it would blow blood out. And I'm like, well, we either got an artery or we got the lungs. But those nilgai are so big and their skin's so thick, by the time she had hit the tree line in about 30 yards, the blood just almost quit, right? Because we got down and we had called for Oscar to come get us. And there's a lot of blood right at first, and then about 15 yards in, it's almost gone. and we're getting specks here, specks there, specks here. We get to the edge of the tree line, and it opens up into this oak motte, and find a nice big blood spot. I put my bow there, and I said, well, let's just kind of, we're rewatching the footage again and again, and I glass as far as I can see, and it's starting to get, real twilight type situation, or dusk. And I said, well, let's wait till Oscar gets here. I'll get a flashlight from him, and because my headlamp, I couldn't get it off red for some reason. I'm gonna have to look at that stupid thing. Any other time I can't get it on red, and now I can't get it off red. But so he shows up, and I show it to him, and right at first he said the same thing I did. Oh, buddy, that's a high shot. And I was like, yeah, but I said, watch here. And he's looking, he goes, it's pumping blood. He said, let's go look for it. He said, we're going to go look for it, but let's, he said, that you might have got lungs, might have got an artery. Let's go look. So as soon as you'd opened up, there was a trail this way, and there was two trails that went to the right. And he started down, because it looked like she went straight. And I do remember in the stand when I was with Jake, I was like, I could hear her running. And I thought there was thick brush behind us. And I was listening, I'm listening, and then I don't hear her running anymore. But I didn't hear a crash. And I was like, well, I guess she just ran out of earshot. I just couldn't hear her no more because she's still running. And that's not good, right?
Yeah.
So you mean you bumped her?
No. I mean, when I was in the stand right after I shot, and I'm listening, I could hear her pounding, running so hard, and then I couldn't hear her no more. But I didn't hear her crash. And I'm thinking, because where we were at was super, right on the edge, it's real brushy.
Yeah.
But as soon as you step through that edge, it's just an open oak motte, and there's just oak trees and tall grass. And so anyway, we're standing there, and I'm glassing, and he's going running down that main trail, and I do like we all do. I mean, if you've tracked deer before, you go back to Last Blood, and you start looking again. Well, I've found some to the right, and then I went a little further and found some on a tree to the right, and I said, hey, Oscar, she went this way. And so we kind of start going that way, and he's taking this trail, and I'm taking this trail, and we get in there about 110 yards or so, and apparently Jake had already seen their belly, and Oscar, I hadn't yet. I'm glassing there because everything looked like every little lump looked like and I'm looking, and you know how you are, you're stressed out. I know it's a high shot, but the blood was the way it pumped, just confused. Made me had some hope.
Right.
But it's wide open down there, and I glassed everything, couldn't see anything. But Oscar goes, hey, and he pointed, and I was like, oh, and then I kind of lost it, I was like, because you get so frustrated and stressed out, but there she was, and super thankful, nice cow, and heavy cow. It was me and Oscar. We start dragging her.
You're going to share, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I tried to give her the entire thing to take home. I
have to get back for my anniversary, otherwise I'd be here.
Yeah, you better get back for your anniversary. No. You're probably already in trouble.
I am.
But yeah, it was a really good ending. But it goes with just what we said. I got lucky when we were gutting her. We checked the lungs. I hit about 3 inches low into the lung on the facing the side of the quarter to me, and when it hit the rib, it deflected and caught the top part of the other one, and then came out about 6 inches back through the top of her diaphragm. She went as her full run was about 200, maybe 225 yards, but as a crow flies from the stand, because she kind of circled back, maybe 150 yards.
Yeah, it's crazy. You'll hit things like an elk or a whitetail, and they will bleed. I mean, you can track them, right?
Yeah.
These suckers, they don't bleed.
Yeah.
I mean, it is weird. I mean, stuff can be hanging out of them, and you're going to be thinking, we got a blood trail, no problem. No blood.
Yeah.
It's just like, I have no idea how they can run through the cover, or through, you see it stuck on vegetation, or some leaves or what. None.
Yeah.
And it is just the most frustrating thing. And so when you go hunt these things, you got to put the tag down on them.
Yeah, even that one I shot last year. I mean, it looked like a perfect shot. And I watched him come out of the water hole, loop around, and I'm glassing him. He stops. I got blood pumping out of both sides. I'm like, awesome. And he walks off and disappears. Now I'm worried because he just walked off. I'm like, well, maybe that shot wasn't as perfect as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And so Oscar gets there last year, same thing. We got a great blood trail all the way to where he stood.
Like 100 yards.
Yeah, and where he was standing, perfect blood. There's 2 plows, and then 3 feet from there, there's nothing. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So we start heading the direction it looked like he was going, and we get over there another 40 yards, and he's piled up in the brush, died right there. But from that last spot to there, no blood.
Jeez.
And you're like, how does that happen? To shoot him with a 2-inch cut or 2.5? I don't remember what a tripod is. 2.5 inches, I think. It's just huge.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
You know. And today, this cow's double lunged. Now I know it's way high up, and she's at first blowing blood everywhere, but then everything started going internal inside.
Yeah.
Their skin, I think, it's real thick and heavy, and it rolls over that wound. And so you really.
You need to have something
Pay
you need to have, if you're going to come down and hunt these things, you need to have something that will open them up.
Yeah.
You need to open them up. I mean, you shoot a smaller head, you're going to make, it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say you can't kill them with it, right? You got to hit them right.
Yeah.
But if you hit anything that's even semi-marginal,
Yeah.
it's the odds that you find them are
Slim.
very, very slim.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I think just the one last thing that I wanted to talk about was, obviously it's been super hot. Mm-hmm. It's been hot. We've been sweating. We've been stinking. And, man, that Ozong's been just doing work up in the tree, I thought. I feel like it's been working really, really well. We've had a lot of cool encounters with whitetails straight downwind. And it's just, if there's a time to be using it, it's right now when it's hot out and we're sweating and stinking. And
Yeah, we've been doing this now for how many years? 16,
17.
17 years.
16.
You know, it's sort of like I will admit, I mean, they'll see on the videos, sometimes we run 2, 3 units, right?
Yeah.
But you got to understand, when you're in 100-degree temperatures,
Yep.
it makes it a lot harder to produce enough oxygen to cover your tracks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you need to understand what's going on there. But yeah, I mean, we pull off stunts. I mean, the people who will relate with this the most are people in Texas or anybody in the South where you deal with pigs.
Yeah.
You don't have pigs surrounding you 360 degrees and sweating literally just dripping off of you.
Yeah.
And you smell to high heaven to the point that we just wear the same clothes out because, I mean, did you change clothes a lot?
No.
I saw you, so I know what you were wearing. But because you get out there and within 10 minutes, just climbing up in the tree, you got sweat just coming down, so you're soaked anyway.
Yep.
And so, trying to get away with what we get away with without ozonics, I think it would be very tough.
Yeah.
It would be very tough. And the whole thing is, nilgai are sketchy enough as it is. And so if you have deer barking at you out there, right? Do we ever get them to bark at us while we're out here? Yep, there were a couple times. Yep, there were. But it was complete oddity. I mean, we were on film all the time, taking and dropping that microfiber right on deer's heads at the water hole over and over again. You don't get away with that. So if you're trying to hunt nilgai and you have your pigs blowing up at you or your deer blowing up, those nilgai are going to stage where he set up.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you could do that. So I'm glad. It's kind of enough to keep
No,
that
I
in
didn't
mind.
know
I'll have
that.
to have
It's
my
incredible.
repertoire for next time.
It's incredible.
But yeah, because that's what they do. But they watch that. So if those pigs and deer are misbehaving, trust me, they're not coming in.
Yeah.
Hey, but the water holes are excellent too. The night before, what you had happen there is just insane. You just had the bad luck of the cows, the moo cows, the beef cows being mixed in, and the last thing you want to do is hit a $5,000 Santa Gertrudis on the King Ranch. It's a sure way of never getting invited back, right? Yeah. So, but no, it was really cool, and there were some challenges. You're right. Having 2 guys in a tree is always a challenge, and the kind of the winds we had, they were strong and pretty directional.
Yeah.
But I can safely say I don't know that we had a single time where we had deer or pigs blow up. Now I did get a nilgai thing, and it was really frustrating me because last year when I hunted had 0.
Yeah.
This year, the other night, we had 2 separate situations where I was just like, man, I don't know what's going on. I'm checking my units. Tonight, the cow, ironically, straight downwind of us, right?
Yeah.
Come from our back, popped out, just like I said, the wind's blowing straight at her. Both of us in a tree. We got the same kind of winds.
Yeah.
And, it just, sometimes you run into certain situations. And, but this is the most game-rich area I've ever been. And I can honestly say there were times that we would have 50 pigs, and I don't know how many deer. At number 6 at one time, at well over 20.
Oh yeah.
And coming from behind you, coming from downwind constantly. You know? And anyway, really neat place. And you couldn't, for what we were doing, I don't think we'd be near as successful without Ozonics. I know we wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, it's one of those things now. For us, it's really not a whole lot of point. We don't have the time to waste, right? And so for us, it's just kind of one of those things that we use to also, for sure, because we're so involved in it, but also management of our time.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta have it. Otherwise, you'll just utterly blow up a perfectly good spot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You'll make it where it's just they'll be real wary the next day.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
Well, I don't know. How do we do?
I think you guys did great.
Yeah, I think we're studs. I think we're pretty good at this.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be
Well,
good
I would say the food was excellent, right?
Yes. The food was
excellent.
great.
Yeah,
We had,
that was a lot of fun.
So this was a really neat trip. I wish we would have got some access there.
Yeah.
But we did get some really neat scouting done and got a couple of really solid whitetails for hill country this year. I'm excited about the seasonal opener the first weekend of October. Because hopefully we can have another little podcast and be sitting down and talking about TNT, that Twisted 10, and Crawdaddy.
Crawdaddy's
Intake.
Crawdaddy's gonna live another year.
Yeah, if we, because he's going to drop his horn soon. They axis deer do their thing year round.
Yeah,
right? They breed year round. They grow horns year round. And we usually get our best sets of horn on that piece of property February, March, and July, August.
Yeah.
And then we're in between. You got a bunch of them running around in velvet, growing. But those are our times. So our time with Crawdaddy and Tanks drawing, they're going to shed here pretty quick and start over.
The crazy thing about that is that what people don't understand is that that's a small piece of land.
Yeah.
I mean, you sit in some of these places, it's 800, 900,000, whatever it is, right? That place we're hunting up there is what?
It's 230 acres, maybe.
230 acres.
Yep.
But the thing is that we don't overpressure it.
Right.
I mean, we go in there and hunt that place 4 or 5 times a year, maybe, and so it's become a sanctuary, right? So, but when you go in there, you impact it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've been out hunting before. I mean, you were with me. We were walking up to that one place, and we had deer busting on us 200-300 yards away from us, sprinting across that field.
Yeah.
And we weren't wearing the packs or anything. We were just walking in to go check a blind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, criminy, they're winding us almost, a quarter of the length of that part of the property, right? And so I'm like, this is insane, right? So, I mean, when you go out there to it, walking into it, if the wind's wrong, you're blowing across your whole place.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
Got to have your kinetic pack and your ozonics on.
Yeah, but I mean, that
exactly.
chills for all the people who are hunting pieces of property that are 300-400 acres.
Yeah.
You go out there, you're walking into it, you have no idea how you're impacting your hunting area
Right.
negatively, right?
Yeah.
Forget being in a stand and getting busted. They're not barking at you. They're just walking away
Yeah.
because they don't see you. They're just getting up. They smelt you and they are boogieing out or they're walking out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a lesson learned, and hunting smaller pieces of property can be super rewarding, but you have to be smart.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Good.
Great job. You're a natural.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening.
Hey,
Ozonics Killerwinds podcast.
Oh, hold on one second.
Sorry.
Cole, I think he's going to replace you.
Cole, you're the co-host now.
You're the co-host. That's
I'm
what
the
happens.
host.
That's what happens when you don't show up.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.